Hello, hello, hello once more. It's a Monday, which means, well, it's Monday. And we do the show on a Monday. It's 2 p.m. UK time. I don't know what time it is where our guests are, but we're joined. Look, we've got a screen full of lovely people. I am so white today. Look at it. It's like more white than normal. Who have we got today? We have Jess Fricks, one of our regular co-hosts. How are you doing, Jess?
I am good, Nathan. It is feeling kind of like a Monday, but it's so much better because I'm with y'all.
Yay! Thank you very much. Jess has been on the show many, many times, but she is the Director of Operations for Pressable. She is an iced tea connoisseur, and also she is a proud member of the Post Status community. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we're also joined by Michelle Butcher-Jones. She's a first-timer. This is the first time that we've had her on the show, so very nice to meet you, Michelle. How are you?
I am great, and thank you for having me on the show this Monday morning.
You are very welcome. Where are you and what time is it? If you're in North America, it's bound to be silly early. Sorry.
I am in Carbondale, Illinois, which is almost in the southernmost area of Illinois, where Chicago's on the north end. It is a bright and early 8:07 in the morning.
Okay. Sorry about that. Well, let me give you your proper introduction. So Michelle Butcher-Jones is the lead support specialist at Thrive Agency. You can see the logo in her screen. She's the founder of Can't Speak Geek. She's also a jewelry collector and a book nerd. When you say jewelry collector, like any jewelry or particular like rings or I don't know which.
I kind of everything.
The whole lot.
Rings,
Okay.
necklaces, bracelets. We've started something. We're working on the 50 states by my age 50. And when we go to a new state, I try to find a locally made jeweler to get a small piece from. Like I've got a leather belt from Cheyenne, leather bracelet from Cheyenne, Wyoming. I got a really pretty turquoise ring from New Mexico when we moved our daughter down there for college. Just little fun things, and that can also help the local artistry in that area.
Oh, that's really nice. Well, really a pleasure having you on. Thank you very much. And hopefully by the end of it, you won't be running away with your arms in the air screaming. Hopefully you'll want to come back on at some point. Last but by no means least, we've got Maciek Palmowski. How you doing, Maciek?
I'm great. I mean, it's Monday, but I have a day off, so
yeah.
It's like a long weekend for me.
Maciek's joining us. I reckon you must be, I don't know, 5 or 6 times now, something like that. It feels like, but
it's third. I think it's a third time.
Oh,
third
okay.
time.
It feels like more. I don't want you to take that the wrong way. Maciek is a WordPress.
Don't worry, I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. He's a WordPress developer at Body as a WordPress ambassador, working at Body as a WordPress ambassador, I should say. After hours, he spends most of his time trying to find interesting news for WP Owls, which is a newsletter, or cycling. Yes, I should say, if you're keen on WordPress news, and that's what this show is about, so you probably are. Just go and Google WP Owls, and you will find that they've got a fabulous newsletter which they curate, and they have guest editors and things like that. And go and check it out and get it in your inbox. So thank you for joining, all three of you. Thank you for any comments that are coming in. One quick thing, we say this every week, but I'll go through it anyway. If you're joining us on Facebook, then there is a slight hoop that you've got to jump through if you don't want to be anonymous. If you do want to be anonymous, that's fine. But if you want to de-anonymize yourself so that we can see your avatar and get your name, you have to go to chat.restream.io/FB. Once more, chat.restream.io/FB and authorize us to see you. And that would be lovely. If you are also feeling like, you'd like some other people, friends, colleagues, relations, enemies even, you'd like them to join the show, please send them a link. Probably the easiest thing to do is to send them to wpbuilds.com/live, wpbuilds.com/live, and get them in, and you can start chatting with us over there. And we've got a few people who have done that. I'll do a few introductions quickly, if that's all right with you guys, before we get started. Maya, hello everyone from rainy Belgrade. Yep, Maya, I got the same. I got the rain coming down all day long, but we'll be bright and cheerful anyway. Also, Rob Cairns, hello, good morning, WordPress peeps, he says. Rob's in Canada. Also, as always, Cameron Jones joins us pretty much each and every single week, and he's saying hello. It's bedtime, though, for Cameron, but I always appreciate him coming on. We're getting Nathan, your room reminds me of the Only Fools and Horses episode where Dell steals the reflective wall paint and paints the outlet. If you're not British, it's highly unlikely that you've heard of Only Fools and Horses, but it was a fabulous comedy show back in the day.
I'm American. I know that one.
Okay. It's actually a really good show, but it probably didn't travel so well. And we've also got, who have we got as well? Paul Bedford, who's saying good afternoon from a hot 32 degrees centigrade, South Africa. Yeah, there's no jealousy here, Paul. I mean, I'm not feeling like 32 is something I desire. I'd rather have the 12 that I've got with the rain.
It's
No,
14. It's 14 here I'm at.
Okay,
So-
is that centigrade?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, at last, somebody in North America who speaks my language about the temperature. When I was there at WordCamp US, I would constantly talk about the temperature because it was always really hot, and I only have centigrade to deal with, and very few Americans talk in centigrade. So there we go. Good day, folks, says Courtney as well. Thank you for joining us, Courtney. Right. Enough of that. Let's get on with the show. First things first, this is our website, wpbuilds.com. If you like what we do, just go here and click onto this thing and submit your email address, and we'll send you emails every time we produce a piece of content. 2 a week. That's really all there is to it. But there's all our archives and live shows and stuff like that. wpbuilds.com. Okay. Let's get stuck into it. Couple of very brief bits. I don't know if anybody's going to have a great deal to say about this, you three, but if you do, just interrupt me when when I'm handing it over. But it's just to say that WordPress, it's inexorable march into the future. We're at WordPress 6.1 Beta 1. It's released and it is ready for testing. It features version 13.1 to 14.1, all of those different bits of the Gutenberg plugin, which we'll talk about in a moment, have been rolled into 6.1. And the highlight features are improved block placeholders, more design tools for blocks, fluid typography, improvements to the editor preference, and a new modal interface, the use of block-based template parts in classic themes, locking settings for inner blocks, and more. I'm cribbing this, as you can see, from the WP Tavern website. Sarah Gooding links to the beta article, but there's quite a few nice bits and pieces in there. But if you're into testing things and you want to help the WordPress project, now may be a good time to do it. It's slated for release in about, what would it be now, 5.5 weeks, something like that, 1st of November. And there's always things that need fixing. Add into that, we just mentioned Gutenberg 14.1. We've got some new things which Sarah highlights once again on WP Tavern. The major thing is the menu selector has been removed from the sort of the heading area, so this area at the top of the page, and it's now been added into the sidebar, which makes it easier to use. There's a few other bits and pieces as well, which I probably won't go into. You can read the article yourself, but I'll link to those in the show notes. But if any of you three, want to mention anything that caught your eye there, feel free. Otherwise, I'll just move on.
And if I remember... Oh, yeah. You first.
No, you.
Okay. This is the problem with these live things, isn't it? It's like there's always, especially when everybody's trying to be lovely and polite, which I really appreciate it. So I'll decide. Jess, you go first.
I was just going to say one of the cool things that happens where I work at Pressable, we always have the beta version available. I will say one interesting thing, though, and this is unique to this year. 6.1 drops on November 1st, and PHP 7.4 is end of life at the end of the month.
Oh, okay.
And so there's a very interesting window where you really need to kind of get up to date on both things at the same time, which is great if you only have 1 or 2 sites. But if you have 1,000 sites, you probably should be working on that right now.
In your platform, Jess, in Pressable, do you manage expectations there? Do you sort of put up notifications saying that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes. Historically, we don't let you use outdated versions of WordPress, which is also, kind of a conversation topic where it regards PHP, because you certainly don't want to be on an end of life version But at the same time, you don't really have a lot of time to test unless you use that beta version now
Right.
to make sure everything's beautiful.
Yeah.
I know last week or 2 weeks ago, we got an email from both Flywheel and WP Engine, which are, of course, owned by WP Engine, saying that usually they will not support any end of life unsupported items, but with the mix up mashup with 8.1 right now for PHP, they're like, we're not going to require you yet at the end of the month, but getting gear.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
And
well
I
worth
think others
mentioning.
are talking about it too. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, especially that the next PHP version may be a bit breaking, especially for the older WordPress versions. So
Yeah. 8.0
I mean,
to
this
8.1
is
isn't that bad,
exactly.
but
But with the older version,
7.4.
especially that I remember that Juliet and Tonya were. I mean, they are repeating this over and over and over and over that we should connect the supported versions of WordPress. I mean, PHP versions with WordPress rather than keeping the support for the old PHP versions, which
Yeah. There's
And
an
it's-
interesting conversation to be had there for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this would be. I mean, it would bring benefits for all of us. I mean, only not for the companies that decided to make an application that works only on PHP 5.6, but sorry.
And
This
Yeah,
from
okay.
what I've
this
seen
was
too, oh, sorry, Malik.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
No.
From what I've seen too, it's more themes that are having issues with PHP 8 instead of plugins.
Mhm. I agree. Also, many agencies will have problems, especially when they build all those themes that are doing everything, some custom work that doesn't follow standards. And we know how it sometimes is during all the agency work when you don't have time for everything. So you sometimes add this small little quick fix on another quick fix. And when the version changes, all those quick fixes just collapse one
Yeah.
after another.
Right. And Rob in the comments is saying, I presume this number 325 refers to the number of sites you've got there, Rob. So 325, yeah, that's a lot of expectations to manage over the next 5 weeks or so. Yeah, let us know if you've done any, preamble work with your clients to make sure that they know what's going on. But yeah, thank you, Jess. That was a well remembered piece. Courtney's put on here that she would like me to invite Juliet and Tonya to be on the show. Courtney, when this is finished, can we connect on Slack or something, and maybe you could give me an introduction, because I don't have the addresses, I don't think, of either of those two people, and that would be fabulous. Yes, says Rob, it is, and he's already started. I hope so. You've only got to do about 10 a day from now on, Rob, something like that. nothing to. Oh, Rob, that's such a big load of work. Right, sorry, Maciek, we had that moment where you and Jess were sort of talking over each other. What were you going to say?
And also with the new WordPress version, the Webp support as default is pulled out.
Gone. Yes.
Which kind of makes me sad, because I am a huge Webp fan, really. I mean, I'm using Webp since a few years already. I mean, using.
Did
of
you
course,
just take the hit,
picture...
Maciek? Back in the day, a couple of years ago, did you just think, well, tough if you're in the whatever it was at the time, percentage of people whose browsers don't support it?
I mean, it wasn't a problem, because using the picture tag, I was able to make it available for everyone. So it wasn't a problem. It was always backward compatible.
Yeah.
And I was using WebP since many, many years already. I mean,
yeah.
I would say since even when Safari didn't support it, and it really was a great decision. And lately, I just decided that I'm just using WebP as default. I stopped caring, especially for those smaller sites, that I do for myself or something. So WebP is the default format, and now I'm looking at what futures, the future formats like AVIF, right, or something
Yep.
like this. So
Yep.
So,
I recorded
to be
an
honest,
episode.
I see a WebP right now as this default one for the web. I know that it's not for everything. It's the format for the web, and soon something will take over WebP place, and I already can see that in 5 years we will be having the discussion: should AVIF be a default format in WordPress? AVIF pulled
Yes.
out from version,
Should we
I don't know,
discontinue support
10.6,
for JPEGs and things like that? Yeah.
etc., etc. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the cycle will be the same, just the formats will change.
I was talking to a Google chap called Adam Silverstein at WordCamp US about this, actually, just images. And he was saying that so he was talking, I don't know if this is coming out of Google or if it was just Adam saying this. He said that 98% of browsers now support WebP, and the other 2% are really edge. You know, it's things like really old versions of Outlook and things like that. So I think, Maciek, you're right. Curiously, though, whenever I export an image, and I create dozens of images each week, I always export them still as JPEGs. I have no idea. I've just got that muscle memory. I just click that little icon and click export, and out it comes as a JPEG. But my understanding is that typically 20% is the saving in terms of data consumed, hard disk used up. So across those dozens of images, it is going to be megabytes and megabytes of needless storage that I'm currently using. Jess, you did a little cheer when Maciek said that WebP had been pulled out. Do you not know?
I am a fan of WebP, but we're not ready.
Right.
That's the problem.
Okay.
We're not ready. Unfortunately, I think there's a big education need here. And I think, Pressable's written about it. I've seen it written about extensively everywhere. But if you're not on the inside, and by the way, our esteemed host, who's wonderful and brilliant, is still exporting into
I know
JPEG. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, there's not been that change.
Yeah.
And like having WordPress change it as default is fantastic, but I think we just need a little more time to talk through it. I know even from a hosting perspective, there's been a lot of questions about what that means for us and our storage. And so I think just a little bit more time and maybe work on it for the next major version.
Yeah. I think it's curious, like devices. I no longer, well, I have a phone. This is the only thing I use to take photographs now. It was a long time ago that I had a separate camera, but the phone and the cameras that I always had, the digital cameras, they always produced JPEGs, and it was kind of like ground into me from an early age that images, they're JPEGs. That's what an image is, and so I kind of default to this position. I'm not wedded to it, and because Maciek has said that, next time I do export an image, I'm going to do it in WebP, and I'm going to see just how beneficial it is. As you say, go on.
It is the future.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it is. I mean, I remember that one project when we had this discussion about adding WebP support. I remember that the company was like, no, we don't need it. But they were using Amazon, so everything, all the transferred is paid by a megabyte. So when I mentioned how much transfer they will save, and they counted it with how much traffic they have, it was a very quick decision that yes, let's go WebP. It's a great format,
right.
It's a future for us. We'll save a load of money.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you. That was two bits that I'd missed out there. I don't think they were mentioned in these articles, but yeah. So Gutenberg 14.1, all of the changes that have come up until that point from whenever it was 13.1, they're going to be rolled into this beta. And you can find out on the article, which I'll link to in the show notes, how you can go and beta test it and, make sure that WordPress is as good as can be. Right, here's a curious article. It's kind of WordPress related, but equally it's not. I don't know of the three of you who had a chance to read it, but I'll paraphrase it. This is Master WP. It's Ron Howard. talking about
Rob?
Sorry, I apologize. What did I just say? Did I just say?
Yeah, you said Ron, but that's
Oh,
okay.
I'm
It's
sorry.
that's a different guy entirely.
Yeah, wasn't he in like Happy Days or something
Happy
like
Days.
that? Yeah, okay, yeah. It definitely isn't him, unless he's had a real change of career. Rob Howard wrote a piece called "When is a discount really not really a discount?" And it kind of caught my attention because in the UK there was a little bit of a debate a couple of years ago where some of the supermarkets, so the likes of Tesco, the equivalent like Walmart, things like that, they were caught kind of faking discount prices. And so, for example, they would say that a bottle of wine, let's say it was down from £15 and you could get it for, I don't know, for a limited time for $7.99. Well, it turns out that the supermarkets were within their rights to put the price of that bottle of wine up for like a day. And then for the whole of the rest of the year, they could claim that the reduced rate was a reduction, whereas in fact, any sort of sensible narrative would say it was the other way around. It artificially went up for a day. And Rob has sort of discovered that this behavior is happening in the WordPress plugin space. It's totally legit. There's nothing to stop you doing it. But I'm just curious, and I know for a fact, because I look at this stuff pretty closely, this is pretty rife in the WordPress space. You'll go to a plugin page, you'll see 399 crossed out, and it'll say 299 or something like that. But there's no way that we can enforce this or really ever discover. Rob goes to the Wayback Machine and, he looks at various different points in the past of these websites and discovers that, yeah, they've been this price forever and they're sort of artificially creating this. And whilst it's good, it may be good if you're a I don't know, you sort of feel like you've got a good deal, or certainly if you're a vendor of one of these things, it kind of feels like a good way to market it. Rob's point is, I'm not sure this is a good idea. It's sort of damaging the ecosystem, and we'll get on to a bit in a minute, probably one of Maciek's articles from Jonathan Wold, about whether this is a healthy thing to see. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think for me, it kind of starts at those back in the 80s where there was those time CDs that they would do at like midnight on TV, and you can get all these for not $12.99, not $9.99, but buy them all for like $139. And it's all that whole perceived value that really started back in the like early to mid 2000s with the internet marketing, like NAMS and places like that, where we push a perceived value, not the actual price of it. And
Right.
It's just kind of trickled down into now plugins and places like that will see what the perceived value price is, not what the actual is. And it's just the marketing jumbo.
It is. It's a bit of sort of marketing lingo. I think the main point that he's trying to make is that really things like WooCommerce, it's trivially easy for any of us to create a store. And then depending on how we are, I don't know, let's use the word morals. Depending on what our morals are, we might adopt this or we may not. Now, does that cause, let's say that you're in competition with a plugin. You're both doing exactly the same thing. You're a forms plugin, they're a forms plugin. They're doing this where they fake the sort of reduction, but you're not. You've got the moral high ground, but you may be losing out to people who are sort of like that FOMO thing. Oh, it's a good deal. And then you get things like you see, banners at the top of websites where they put a countdown timer on, and then you go back long after the countdown timer ran out and the countdown timer's just started again. And you just sort of think, I'm not so sure about this. And because it's really easy to do, we may get lulled into thinking, well, this is clever marketing. This is what we all must do. I'm not sure. Then what if we're breaking laws? He mentions the Connecticut law, which says that essentially if your product hasn't been at that price for 28 of the previous 90 days, you are breaking the law. And so it raises problems as to whether or not you selling, I don't know, T-shirts or whatever it might be to the United States, if you're breaking their laws, they might not view that very favorably. Anyway, I've talked enough.
I personally think people are exhausted.
Mhm.
I think we're exhausted. Remember when pop-ups worked?
Yeah.
Everybody
For a
had
time.
pop-ups on their site, and then everybody just got tired of them, and now everybody hates pop-ups. But I think pop-ups are making a comeback like cassette tapes. I think with these sales and the countdown timers, I think we've just kind of, it's lost the mystique and that drive, this whole concept that they're going to sell out of their plugins.
Yeah. No,
As if there's a limited quantity available.
yes, that's right. I've got a PDF to download, but there's only 20 remaining.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Scarcity marketing it's great when done well, but I think you see it a lot in the WordPress space, and not just with plugins, but there's this race to the bottom with discounts. And part of the problem is you've got these people that are newer to WordPress, and they'll come in thinking that let's say hosting is $3 a month. And let's say it goes, a year in, and all of a sudden now they're paying 30 a month. And they're like, you bait and switched me. No, that was your coupon length.
Yeah.
And so there's some of that too. I think discounting is it gets real sketchy real quick. But just as a consumer, I think people are just tired of it. Like, just tell me what the price is. Like,
Yeah. Well, because also Rob makes the point that you have no real conception that the price that you're seeing is what everybody else is seeing. Because in a store, selling, I don't know, let's say shirts and what have you, the price is just sort of written on the label, and it's a big job to go around changing all the labels and what have you. But who's to say that if you're in Canada, you might be getting a different price to somebody in the US? You might have put I don't know, some sort of link in so that, you've come from this website, you're going to get 10% off, or it's between these 2 days. In other words, we can play with it really granularly, and we don't really know what we're getting. And there's a WordPress company, I won't mention any names, but it would appear that they're constantly on sale. And it just sort of makes me think, well, when is it not a sale then? Do you ever advertise the fact that it's now not on sale for a little while?
Well, and should I buy now, or is your discount going to be better next week?
That's right. Yeah. And that's a curious one, isn't it? Because if a company that's always got a product on sale then offers it for, like, I don't know, instead of it being 10% off, it suddenly goes to 20% off. Do you feel a bit shortchanged by that? I don't know. Maciek, it sounded like you had something to say.
Yeah, I wanted to say because in Poland, always try to save money. So we have many sites that compare prices on different stores. For some reason, there is no such product for virtual products yet. But the thing that all of those price comparers have is the price history. So it's very easy to see if someone is cheating, because let's be honest, very often practice like this, especially when we try just to use the FOMO effect and things like this, it's just plain old cheating, because it's not doing a sale. It's a way of trying to use some of our mechanism against us. And and especially every year when we have, because yes, of course, we had to adopt Black Friday because it's such a long Polish tradition. All those sales are so easy to check and compare when you look at the history, at the price history, and you see that, why is this product much more expensive than it usually is? Adding those price histories were one of the best things. And let's be honest, doing something like this for WordPress plugins would be also doable.
That would make a fabulous project for somebody. I right at the outset, I'm going to say it's not going to be me, but some kind of price tracker over time, where you could see that X plugin has been at this price, and then it went up and it went down, and mapping that would be really curious, and it would give you a genuine idea as to whether things had been artificially inflated. Of course, we are around the corner from Black Friday, and I am pretty convinced, Maciek, that you're right, that it is, let's say, abused sometimes. You definitely get the impression that the majority of WordPress vendors don't abuse it, and you get a genuine discount. But I think there are one or two who push it a little bit, shall we say. Okay, that was an interesting one. That was Rob, not Rom, Howard, over at Master WP. Go and check that out. I just wanted to give a quick shout out this one. I don't know if there's much anybody wants to contribute to this, but I was lucky enough to meet Steve Burge from Publish Press the other day at WordCamp US. Really thoroughly nice chap, and we both have a shared interest in history. So there you go. And it came to light this week that his company, Publish Press, had acquired another plugin company called Meta. Well, they've acquired a plugin called MetaSlider. They don't really go into what it is that was exchanged in terms of finance, and also it's kind of curious because I can't initially see the overlap between MetaSlider Lightbox, and Publish Press, but yeah, hopefully Steve will make something good out of this. He talks about the fact that he is going to do a lot more work on it. There's a pro version that they'll continue to sell, and there'll be a standalone version focused on images. But it won't be included in any sort of Publish Press package that you may already have. It looks like they're standalone. So just to say, Steve, congratulations. Well done. Nice. That's that. Anybody want to contribute on that, or shall I just move on?
There's another one making a comeback.
Yeah. Oh,
sliders
okay.
were all the rage. Then nobody
Yeah.
wants you to use sliders, and now I'm starting to see them pop up again.
Yeah. So he
Not
says,
pop up literally, but
no,
just
yeah,
show
a
up
pop-up
on websites.
slider. Now there's a
Pop-up slider,
thing.
yes.
A pop-up slider.
All we need to do is make it
Wow.
blinking, and it'll be
Yeah,
perfect.
pop-up slider with the
Yes.
blink CSS applied. Steve says a traditional slider isn't a good fit for a news website for a couple of reasons. We aim to tackle the variety of problems head on. First, to solve the issue, we plan to expand dynamic content features of MetaSlider so that you can easily pull in fresh content. And secondly, we'll focus on the speed of MetaSlider, so you don't have to worry about sites being slow. And I think, apart from the UI UX of it, the idea that it would grind your site down in terms of, because it would load like 20 images, which were just out of the viewport. Let's see what Steve makes of it. But bravo, Steve. Well done. I hope it's a marriage made in heaven. That's great. Okay, right. Here's something new. Absolutely brand spanking new. I caught sight of this first thing this morning when Michelle Frechette, who of course is on this show very regularly, sent me a message on Slack saying that that is to say Michelle Frechette, and Kathy Zant have started a new podcast. It's called WP Motivate, and that is the URL.com, wpmotivate.com. And the idea, and I confess, I haven't had time to listen to it today, but the idea is they're going to serve you up on a Monday morning, a very short, so 5 to 20 minutes of content. That's what they're limiting themselves to. So a nice sort of motivational, WordPressy piece of content at the beginning of the week. It says, Kathy and Michelle aim to start each week with some joy, some silliness, and some motivation. And looks like it says here, well, there isn't, as far as I know, there isn't a way to sort of sign up, I don't think, to any list. But if you go to wpmotivate.com, you'll be able to join in their happiness and positivity. So again, bravo. Michelle, it's hysterical when Michelle comes on this show because her bio is crazy long. It's like one thing after another, and now we've got.
I am fairly certain, well, at least like 20% certain that she's a cyborg.
Yeah, there's two of her. There is another one of her somewhere else.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
another good one.
that's right.
Said she was the busiest woman in WordPress.
That's right.
Yes.
She was very pleased with that. She was tickled
But-
pink by that.
Nathan, I have an important question. Is she planning to release this to compete with this show? Because we have your back. We'll sweep the leg for you. We'll snap and just be
Jess, it's war. It's full on war. There's
we got you.
This is the last time this is ever mentioned on this show. No, it's great, isn't it? I mean, there's obviously, I don't know if there'll be any overlap, but it is on the same day. She says in the morning, but the first episode is already out, so I don't know quite if there'll be a collision in terms of time. But theirs is all pre-recorded, and our recorded version of this goes out on a Tuesday. So yeah, but thank you, Jess. I appreciate your support.
Got you. I got you. I mean, I love Michelle, but you know,
there's only so much love to spread around, isn't there, Jess? Yeah. All right, that's great. Well done to WP Motivate, Michelle and Kathy. And look at the hosting that they've decided to go for. That's a company called Pressable.
What a small logo.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it, Joss? They've done you proud, Jess.
Dream. It's okay. The placement is great, but can you give me a bit bigger logo?
Yeah, that's right. More cowbell. Give us more logo. Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of hoping it would be a pop-up, but what can you do?
Sliding pop-up. One letter at a time. P. Oh, E. That'd be great. Anyway, well done to the pair of you. I will add it to my list of podcasts which I've got on my phone, and hopefully have a listen in the next few days. Okay, right. From one new thing to another new thing. Genuinely, I think this is really interesting. So, WP Tavern, Sarah Gooding once again writing an article called SiteGround Launches Managed EDD Hosting. And as soon as I saw this, I just thought, why has nobody else done this? This is absolutely fascinating. So how long has it been now? So I thought this was new. Tell me, Jess, where I'm wrong.
LearnDash hosting over at Nexus.
So that's based around EDD?
No, it's a different plugin altogether.
Okay. So that was the piece that I thought was quite interesting. The specificity of the fact that it's EDD.
Easy digital downloads.
Yeah. So yes. So obviously, if you're into selling goods, we talked about t-shirts a minute ago. A real good thing to do for that would be to go to a managed WordPress company who have a WooCommerce hosting option, and there are absolutely loads of them. You can go click a button, you've got a store set up right away. But EDD is for digital products. It's for, selling plugins and whatever digital stuff that you happen to have. And it's big, the marketplace around EDD is pretty huge. I think it says something like, what is it? I can't remember. There were some
almost
numbers
2
here.
2 million domains.
Yeah, okay. I think
2 million domains.
2 million domains is the site of SiteGround, but I think it says of those 2.8 million, 50,000 are using EDD.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's not huge at the minute, but I did think, well, why has nobody else done this? It just struck me as like a really curious thing. It's a marketplace. If you can click a button and get a digital download store set up right away. SiteGround have collaborated here with the new owners of Easy Digital Downloads, and they were bought a little while ago, I'm going to say like 18 months, something like that, by Awesome Motive. And you can see that Awesome Motive, they're quite happy to upsell their other bits and pieces in there, which
they always are.
Yeah, they're quite good at putting the other bits and pieces they've got there. So you'll have to contend a little bit with that. If you go for this, you're going to be cross-sold all their other products, Opt-in Monster and WP Forms and all of that kind of stuff. But I just thought this was a really interesting idea. So it's $2.99 for one website. So that's $2.99 per month for one website, $7.99 for unlimited. You know how this goes. But I just thought this was curious.
I'll be interested to see how much more Awesome Motive on their various content properties starts promoting SiteGround now that they've got this partnership.
Yeah. I wonder. I do wonder. But I just thought I would not be surprised if somebody else sort of copies this idea and starts to sell EDD-based stores, because it's a marketplace. You've got a direct access to customers. And, if you're building a piece of software or plugins or anything that you can digitally download, basically, you can do through EDD. So I just thought it was a good idea.
I don't know that EDD will be able to make that partnership. They probably have something with SiteGround specifically for this. And I'm sure there's something, some kind of exclusivity. So you could probably do it with a different plugin. But I'm sure Awesome Motive worked something out with SiteGround specifically for this.
Of course, because there's no free variant of EDD, is there? There's just the paid. There's nothing on the repo. Yeah.
When you have that in there, everything else pops up too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
that's a very good deal for automotive.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like SiteGround, if we rewound the clock about 6 or 7 years, feels like SiteGround were right in the mix and were being talked about all the time. But I really haven't heard anything much from them or of them in the last few years. And Michelle, you were saying that you'd had you had some sort of insight there.
They about 4-ish years ago had changed their model for how they did support. And there was a big kind of uprising over it. And I know with the support model changing and kind of with everyone raising their prices a little bit, I know there was a decent sized exodus off of SiteGround. I'm one of the admins for the WordPress hosting group in Facebook, and there was about 6 months after that happened, there was a lot of talk of people not really recommending SiteGround anymore. But it seems in the past like 3 to 6 months, they're really trying to remarket themselves back.
Okay.
Kind of like how GoDaddy did about 2015-ish.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, maybe they've had a bit of a PR whoopsie and they're trying to reestablish themselves. Okay, speaking of this, first of all, hello, Mark Westgard. Nice to have you with us. Appreciate it. And then Cameron says he can't. So we're talking about automotive EDD still. I can't help thinking that this is purely a marketing strategy at this point. Not sure how much uniqueness you can have other than some pre-installed plugins and a few server resources. Okay, yeah, thank you, Cameron. That's an interesting opinion. Yeah. And Andrew Palmer then follows that up with EDD has only 60,000 users. Now Automotive is involved. They can do these partnerships. It also only installs a very basic version. Oh, didn't know that. Thank you. EDD does have a free option, but it's worse than useless. Oh, again, thank you, Andrew, for your wisdom. I didn't realize they had a free version. Okay, that's great to know. Just looking down the comments. No, there's nothing more to add. There's just people saying good morning to each other, which is jolly nice, isn't it? People using the comments to say hi to each other. Okay, well, there you go. I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah. Right. Very quick plug. I hope you don't mind.
Oh, look at that. SiteGround is now their top managed WordPress hosting provider recommendation on WP Beginner.
Well, you couldn't have made it up. Yeah, you could not have made it up. Quick promo, if you don't mind. I'll do this as quickly as possible. Every month or thereabouts, Peachinary and I get on the screen, a bit like we are now, and we go through a few websites and look at them. They're user submitted, and we look at them in terms of UI and UX. That's what Peacher does. That's her day job. She's a UI UX specialist. And so people submit their sites and ask them to be looked at by her. We've got a few in the bag for this current episode, but if you want it to be featured on another episode, please go here. It's the easiest URL to remember. It's wpbuilds.com/UI, wpbuilds.com/UI. Just submit your name, the URL, and so on. But we're also after any deceptive designs. It used to be called dark patterns. Peacher hates them and wants to highlight them wherever she finds them. So if you've got any dark patterns, please fill out that form and let us know. And hopefully we'll get your website featured on the show. Oh, this is the story of my 2022. I have no words to express how unbelievably amazed I am by what AI images have done over the last year. If you'd have asked me just a couple of years ago to demonstrate the difference between computers and humans, the answer that I just brought out every time was humans can paint, computers can't. And I haven't got that anymore because now they can do it all the time. You've got all of these things like DALL-E and Midjourney. And now a free plugin has come around. and this is again on the WP tab, and the article's called New Block Diffusion Plugin Creates AI-Generated Images from Text Prompts. Just as with all the other bits of software, you give it some text. So you might say, I don't know, I'd like a picture of a dog sitting on a cushion next to a copy of, I don't know, War and Peace or something like that. And the more text you give it, the greater the chance it has of coming back with an image that you like. This is the plugin is free. It connects with, now let me get this right, with a service called Replicate. You use the Replicate API. It's $0.01 per image, and it takes 6 seconds to create the image, allegedly. So basically, by the time you've hit enter and slurped your coffee and put the coffee back down, you've got an image. And on the screen here, if you're watching this, you'll be able to see it. The phrase that was used to generate the image that you see was shift into a new era of human AI art collaboration. And that's what it came up with. I mean, I don't quite understand the connection there, but the point is I'm loving all this stuff. And the fact that there's now a block which allows you to do it more or less for free, dare I say that, I just think is super cool. What are your thoughts on this? Is it terrifying? Is it brilliant? What is it?
Both.
Yeah.
No, really. I mean, I was surprised even before we get to the painting part when I had Dan Olson as a guest editor at WP Owls, and after sending me the content and everything, he asked about did I liked everything, and I said, yeah, of course. And he mentioned, yeah, because it was generated in this part by AI. So yeah, I have one guest editor that used AI to do most of his work, and to be honest, I didn't knew about it. So
Yeah.
I also had the chance to talk with people from Contendo that are able to using AI to convert, for example, the talk we are having here to an article, not just a transcript and the dialogue, article, and create some bits for social media and everything. And I was like,
Yeah.
amazing. So with paintings, it's the same. But as you mentioned, we saw the description and we saw the end result. It was beautiful, but I also couldn't see the connection. So those descriptions and the end result are sometimes weird. Still, the form of everything that we write and what we get back, it's much better. But in a year, in a two, it will be much better. And
Yeah, you can
I mean,
imagine.
on
You
one
can
hand,
imagine sorry, go on.
I can't imagine because this is also the thing that you mentioned. A few years ago, I wouldn't thought that AI will be capable of so many things. I mean, for me, still, one of the biggest things about AI is the whole engine that based on which Google Translate works. It's really amazing to see how it learned speaking Polish, because Polish is quite difficult. Polish is very difficult, and it has some small nuances that were always always difficult to come from English. And right now, it just works. But we
Yeah.
need to understand the sentence. Without it, it would be just impossible. And AI made it happen.
I
So
think
yeah, I just can't imagine what will happen in a year, but it will probably be more amazing and more scary.
yeah. I think I've had to push my definition back of what a computer can do more now. So before it was it can't create art, and I've had to abandon that because clearly it can. And so my definition has had to go a little bit further back to say, well, it can't conceive of the art. You know, it needs a prompt. If you just went off and said, create me a piece of art, I still think it would flounder. I don't know. Maybe there's a default setting where it'll just come up with something completely random. Of course, that's a possibility as well. But I just think this is so interesting. It terrifies me and makes me incredibly joyful at the same time, Maciek, because I kind of worry on the back of all this about the jobs. So I'm thinking in this case, people whose living has been to do this kind of thing, and I imagine being an artist is a difficult thing to manage anyway. And now, where at the cost of a cent, you can create something which may take let's say a human artist hours, weeks, maybe months even to create. The economics sort of stack up very much in favor of the AI, don't they? If you're looking for, I don't know, thumbnail art or something like that to go with on your posts, I imagine the days of paying artists to do that are slightly numbered. We do have Andrew Palmer in the comments, and he's got Bertha AI, which is doing the same thing for text. I've got a feeling maybe, Andrew, you could speak to this. Maybe you're adding some of these image capabilities in as well. But Michelle or Jess, any thoughts?
I think there'll be a mix where you'll possibly have like the more like for websites for your featured image and things like that of maybe being moved to of using AI. But when it comes to like the art of the actual like physical prints, painting, stuff like that, you're not just buying the item, but you're buying the story behind it as well.
Interesting. Jess?
It just makes me think of the meme where you see what a $10 tattoo looks like next to a $1,000 tattoo.
I'm guessing that the $10 tattoo is inferior.
It's not a tattoo that you want.
Okay.
It's really not.
Yeah.
It's derp lion versus like crazy lion.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that, I am personally not an artist, but I know artists, and to watch them work is nothing short of magical.
Yeah.
And while AI is coming so far and it's so good for these sorts of situations, I think the people that it's going to bring are people that wouldn't have already like chosen artists. It's the same people looking for, cheap and free themes. They're looking for cheap and free art.
Interesting. I guess this probably has played out in the history of every form of technological innovation. So, when Jethro Tull invented his machine, which allowed farmers to plant seed en masse, presumably a lot of people who were previously employed to literally go and scatter seed, they had to find other things to do. And that forced migration of labor, if you like, probably led to all sorts of people who would have been throwing seed for the rest of their lives going off and finding something else to do. And you imagine that working in a bank 60 years ago, there would have been hundreds of people with great big ledgers totting up all the numbers, and they've all gone because somebody invented the spreadsheet. But it didn't seem to put everybody out of work. And there's a bit of me which thinks, yeah, stop being so doom and gloom, Nathan. It's fine, and just enjoy it for what it is. But it does, yeah.
I think Nathan, Andrew just came in with a great comment that would be my follow-up. I think that AI is absolutely fascinating and where it's going, but like he says here.
So Andrew says there will be AI experts who will create on your behalf. Luddites were concerned when automatic weaving machines were invented. Yeah, I think you just broadly made the same point as me, didn't you, Andrew, about technological innovation frees up people to do other things. And I guess whenever the bedrock of things which you've grown up thinking about, that's the normal way of doing it. Whenever those things get shattered, it makes you pause a little bit, and the assumption is always a bit of panic. Everything's going to go wrong and horrible, and it on the whole, it doesn't seem to do that. So just as another thing, if you are a Bertha user, Andrew's just said that this image generation will be in Bertha from next week. Andrew, I wonder if you could tell us how that works. In other words, if you're a Bertha user on a subscription at the minute, because typically they have a free tier, but they also have a paid offering. Do you have to sort of buy image credits, or can you use your text credits that you're currently using and swap them over? Let us know. And he's added one more little comment. Art will still WX, I don't know what he meant there, and be much more valuable too. Made by humans will have a bigger price tag. This is the time for me to become an artist. I can feel my calling now. I'm going to sell my
artist
art.
or an AI artist?
No, a real artist. I'm gonna. Well, Andrew said I'm going to put a bigger price tag on it. I'm going to be rich beyond my wildest dreams with stickmen drawings. Right.
Well, also, look at the big change in stores in the past 10 years, of where a lot of the more big box chain stores now have where you have to check out yourself, and they don't have any cashiers. And then I was at a grocery store, and they have a little robot now that will go in the lanes to scan the shelves for inventory.
Wow.
Huh.
If you don't know one's coming up behind you, will startle the snot out of you.
I do sort of wonder if the destiny of humans is basically to be like those creatures in WALL-E. Do you remember the film WALL-E, where they fly up on the spaceship and they encounter this race of humans sort of like 5,000, 10,000 years in the future, and they're basically capable of sitting in a sofa and consuming drinks, and that's kind of their purpose in life. Maybe that's what we want. We want everything to be comfortable and easy and a click of a button. Michelle, by the way, threw this article at us right at the end of last week. It might not have been Michelle. I can't remember. But it came on last week's show, and I just wanted to point it out one more time. It's a really interesting article. It's Adrian Roselli, sorry. And it's fascinating because he takes alt text from images, and then he puts them back into the generators, and he sees what comes out, and it's really fascinating.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh, it's so clever. So here's the first one, right? So he shows you this, and the human written alt text is a cartoon, kawaii slice of toast with happy eyes, open smiling mouth, and reddish cheeks. There is a splatter of blood coming to the top of the toast, similar to the Watchman logo. It's a pretty good description of what we're looking at. And then he feeds it into all these different AI creation tools. So that exact piece of alt text, and he gets it's just like so different. So here's one. This is what Crayon, Craiyon, gives you, and it's just it's kind of hit the nail on the head. Then Midjourney gives you this, which kind of look like little avatars for toast. Apples.
This escalated very quickly.
Look at this one. It's just like, what the heck? It's so good. This is the Apple alt text fed into Crayon. So this is Apple read the image and created its own alt text, and then finally Apple's text. That's beautiful, though. I mean, whether or not you think that's hysterically wide from the mark, it's absolutely beautiful. I suggest that you go and read this article. It's really interesting reading. But one of the things that it brings to bear is, please make your alt text actually usable on your websites. If you've got any, for all the right reasons, accessibility and lots of other reasons, make the alt text actually say what's in the image. And just sort of connecting that, a friend of mine, somebody reached out to me, John Dorner, sent me an email this week, but by pure coincidence, it overlaps with this article. He's got 2 new plugins, and the first one is called Fix Alt Text. You can find it on the repo. These plugins are both free. It's called Fix Alt Text, and it gives you prompts where images throughout your website, if you've missed this, it will find images with no alt text on them so that you can go back and retrofit your website so that the alt text is there. Very, very important for accessibility purposes. It doesn't just... Oh, it does. Anyway, the point is good for SEO, good for accessibility. And if you don't know which images haven't got alt text, this plugin will surface those for you. And the other one that he's got is called Where Used. And this will take more or less everything in your WordPress website. So attachments, posts, links, blocks, and images, all sorts of different things. And it will tell you where in the website it's actually used. So that little image in the media library, which is like 4 megabytes, that's not used anywhere, well, Where Used will tell you that it's not being used, and so you can delete it. So I think this is, anyway, bravo to John Dormer. So quickly surface those. This is one of my favorite plugins, ACF, Advanced Custom Fields. I'm so happy that Elliot Condon all those years ago created this. I use it virtually everywhere. It's one of those things that gets thrown on a website more or less straight away, for me at least anyway. It recently got taken over, and I want to say it was Delicious Brains that bought it. That's right, isn't it? Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Delicious Brains.
First Delicious Brains, and then WP Engine bought
of course. Brains. Then WP Engine then acquired the majority of the Delicious Brains plugins. Thank you, Maciek. That's great. And they've decided that it's time to give it a bit of an overhaul. The UI they felt was a little bit too, well, not too busy, but just a bit too spacious. There was a lot of space given over to things that really didn't need that much space. I have to say, I love it. I really like it. This is version 6. And essentially what they've done is they've created this article where they show a before and after. And in every case that I've looked at on this page, I think, yeah, really nice job. So they've gotten rid of things that didn't really need to be there. They've added tabs and so on. But essentially, they've just tried to minimize it. So this UI, which you can see, that's the old way of doing things. Lots of space used up, lots of unnecessary things there that you didn't really need. It's now being compressed to something which looks a little bit like this, with accordions that open and close. And just to say to the guys over at WP Engine, Delicious Brains, ACF, whatever it is, bravo. I think you've done a really nice job. You guys using stuff like ACF? Do you ever stray into this? Yeah.
Yes, ACF a lot at our agency.
Is it like the default? Has it been the default forever and ever, like it has for me?
Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of just one of those things that gets thrown in. Well, you'll be delighted when you click update on your website. I don't know if you've had a play with it yet, but certainly from the screenshots, I haven't updated and had a look at it on a live site yet, but it looks like they've done a really nice job. So thank you first to Elliot Condon, and then for all the other people who've had their hands on it. Okie dokie. Right. Let's go to this one. iThemes. Security. I don't really know much about this. Maybe you guys are more technological in terms of security than I am. But this is Kathy Zant writing. Oh, we mentioned Kathy already. She's getting in the show a lot today. This is all about WebAuth. Now, I don't know how even to pronounce this. It looks like you say WebAuthn or WebAuthn. I don't really know. But iThemes, they claim at the top of this article to be a groundbreaking release, the first of its kind in the WordPress space. They're enabling you to use a different way to log into your website, this WebAuthn or WebAuthn. And the idea is that instead of using usernames and passwords, which every website has done forever to log in, that's obviously vulnerable because it literally can be stolen. And if it's stored in an insecure way, or somebody manages to crack the cipher, which is holding your hashed version of the password, for example, you can be compromised. The idea here is that it defers that logging in capability to things like your browser or your fingerprint reader on your phone. So it becomes the conduit. And you're going to trust your phone, right? Because it's yours. So I just think this is a really nice idea. I tried the implementation out on one of my websites, and it lodged something into my browser. I'm using Chrome or Brave. And from that moment on, I've been able to log in by clicking something in the browser that just says, is this really you? Or something like that. And it just gets rid of that little bit of friction. I think this stuff's really cool, but I'm not really an expert on how it all works. So if any of you guys understand it better, please educate me.
I can share. At Pressable, one of the most common feature requests is a different way to handle 2FA.
Okay.
I mean, there are so many different options now, and everybody's got their favorite. People are using different clients. Some people are saying, well, you can't use this one because it locks you into this, and I need this instead. And I think it's really great that, the World Wide Web Consortium is finally coming out with some kind of guideline, and this appears to be what they're going to be pushing everyone to. I read about it, and one really cool thing that I saw that is neat is it's going to help prevent phishing attacks. So it's
Right.
going to prevent you from
Yeah.
being able to, have one of those fake login pages. It's going to be really interesting to see if this is accepted as a universal standard, because there's a whole lot of money in all these different solutions. And I don't think they're going to go down without a fight.
Yeah, that's true, because there are so many ways to store your passwords in a secure way, and yeah, as you mentioned, it's a business. It's a huge business, and it's not only about logging into our websites. It's also about our bank accounts that also have some more complicated ways. It's also about using some other applications, for example, our FTP client, and how connected with our client, with our password vault. And it's also about all the file configurations. For example, WP config. Everyone who has access to it can see our password. So it would be great to store it in some way so no one can see it, because it's a big business, and there is a lot to do about it. So I think that, but yeah, it would be great to have some universal way to, and yeah, having a browser taking it over, or a system together with the browser, because it will be even better, because we are not doing everything in the browser. Yeah, it would be great, but I also would have to need to read more about implementation of it, because the only thing that I saw it's that's compatible with the W3 specification, and that's all.
Yeah, we should say that this isn't so the protocol which Jess just mentioned. It's not so the underlying technology. This is not iThemes. They're just implementing something which has been created by some fairly big hitters. I can't actually find. Oh, here we are. So some of these small companies you may have heard of: Apple, Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, and a company actually you may not have heard of, Yubico, which creates these things. I don't know if you've probably all got one of these, but it's like a key. It's called a YubiKey, and it offers, it's like a keyboard on a USB drive, and it enables me to sort of hide behind a very, very long password certain things. But the point is, all of it's inconvenient. Usernames and passwords are inconvenient. I've got a password manager. I use LastPass. I'm sure you've all got different things, so that I can try to be as secure as possible. But effectively, what I'm doing is just creating a brand new password for every service that I log into. And that's what I've been doing for, I don't know, 10 years or more. A brand new, super long, ridiculously difficult, actually impossible to remember password.
But then also, I just need that one password, and I've got all your passwords.
Exactly. So the giant problem there is that if you crack,
and on the other hand, what will happen, or what will happen if someday LastPass will say, "Yeah, sorry, it was our last day. Bye."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the scariest thought. Why would you?
Honestly, I'm doomed. I'm giving up. The implementation of LastPass is hopefully you've got the data anyway, but because it sends you a little blob every time you save something. It's held locally, and it's a little blob of data, and you can download that. And hopefully, if LastPass did go out of business and you needed to go for a rival, but it does feel to me like things like LastPass, 1Password, they tackle the problem of usernames and passwords impeccably. It's brilliant, but I cannot see usernames and passwords being the future. The fact that all right, so let's imagine that I've got biometric data, in this case my thumbprint. Let's say that is the thing that I've decided I'm going to be logging in with. Obviously, if somebody comes and forcibly applies my thumb to a device, then the whole thing's blown apart anyway. But I feel I'm just not living in that universe. I am not James Bond. Let me say that sentence again. I am not James Bond. Nobody's going to be breaking my door down to get my thumbprint. I'm protecting myself just because I don't want hackers to accidentally access something. They're not coming after me, but they might scoop me up in the trove of data that they steal from elsewhere. But I just think this is really interesting. It's a really interesting
But you can
development.
cut your finger. You can cut your finger. You can still cut your finger, and it may be a problem for some readers.
I've noticed. Yeah, if I go play tennis and I come back with like a sweaty finger or a sweaty thumb, it doesn't work. I have to sort of dry it all off. And yeah, that's interesting. So this is Web Auth.
And what we found out with security when it comes to the facial recognition is go through a pandemic and try to hold up your phone. And so you're sitting there, you're like, to get it to work.
I've never trusted a device with my face yet. I've gone for the. Do you know what? To be honest, it was only about 2 years ago that I gave a phone my thumbprint. I was being much more of a Luddite. I was quite happy to type in a 6-digit code to unlock my phone, and then eventually I thought, oh, sack it. Let's just give it my thumb. And then as soon as I did it, I was like, why haven't I been doing this? But I can't quite bridge the gap to doing my face. I just think that's too easy for me.
If you are an Apple user, once you get up to what is it, like the iPhone 8 or 9, it has to do the facial recognition. It won't do the thumbprint anymore.
Okay, yeah, I'm on Android, and my understanding is the implementation of the facial recognition is not as robust as the Apple version. So yeah, it just seems a bit too weird. I just don't like the idea of somebody coming over with my phone and just pushing it into my face and going, I've got your phone. It's mine now. Anyway, curious, but thank you to I nearly said iTunes, iThemes for implementing this. The article is called "Passwords Are Broken. Web Auth N is the new standard for authentication." Go and see if you can make sense of it better than I, at least anyway. So there we go. That's that piece. Right, let me just share me screen. Where are we going next? Oh, yeah, a couple of quick things to mention. First one is that the guys over at Visual Composer, we had Rightis on not that long ago on the podcast, and they're offering 25% off. It's as far as I remember, it's like a back-to-school thing. The URL certainly seems to indicate that. I'll leave the link in the show notes, but it's at visualcomposer.com/back-to-school. And 25% off. Don't know until when, but anyway, there you go. Bit of a deal.
And
right,
just
Maciek.
For the first year.
Oh, is it just for the? Thank you. Good clarifier. Okay, I didn't see that anywhere, but okay. Oh yeah, it says for first year. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty, Maciek, you shoved a few articles into the show notes that you wanted us to highlight this week. We've got a little bit of time. We've got about 10 minutes, so we may cover off a couple of them if that's all right with you. Firstly, the Sir Jonathan Wold, has written a piece called "Are WordPress Product Businesses Undervalued?" Why have you surfaced this one? You obviously enjoyed reading it this week.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of true, because especially when I think about those small businesses, and for example, ACF. I think ACF was kind of this example when it's a great product, and for some reason Elliot had to sell it because he was too small. He wasn't making enough money to start building a whole company around it, right? So I kind of agree with this, that especially that many plugins are started by people who just want to solve their own problems. At some point they realize that, oh, it's not only my problem, let me try to monetize it. And at some point a big company comes in and either bots you or creates a similar solution, and you're out of the market.
Jonathan is a key proponent. I think one of the things that he's been talking about for a fairly long time is the fact that he thinks that the market can bear higher prices for WordPress products. Let's just put it that way. And the example of ACF is just is perfect, isn't it? Because Elliot was selling that for life, so lifetime
I know.
access.
I have it. I have one.
Yeah, like I think it was $50, wasn't it? $49 or something.
I even had it a bit cheaper because I bought just one plugin for ACF at the point where there wasn't the whole ACF Pro bundle.
Yeah.
So I remember that I bought the gallery or flexible content for a few dollars, and at some point he converted it to lifetime, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you go out into the SaaS marketplace and you look at what SaaS products are charging, it's very typical to see like $99 a month for a service which does one thing and does one thing well. But you really, in the WordPress plugin marketplace, that's the kind of figure that you're looking at paying annually for something which may deliver the exact same amount of value. And so his sort of key indicators, the three key reasons he feels that product businesses are being undervalued in the WordPress spaces, I'll summarize them just by the titles. He says misaligned monetization, limited distribution, and this third one I think speaks to me the most. It says inexperienced leadership. What I mean by that, I think, is what you just said about Elliot. He was an extremely capable developer who obviously was able to create this fabulous product, but maybe he didn't have the how to describe it without offending Elliot. He didn't have the desire to market it as a product. He was a coder, and that's what he wanted to do. And turning that into a profitable company was difficult. So yeah, I feel there's a lot of sense in this. Part of me thinks, isn't it great? A lot of WordPress things are really cheap, so I can get a lot of value out of them for relatively small amounts of money. But on the flip side, if I was a developer, I think Jonathan's piece, which is, look, guys, shall we start charging a reasonable amount? The market can cope with it. I think there's a lot of sense in what he says. Anything else from Jess or Michelle on this? That's okay. Shall we move on?
I was gonna let Michelle talk. She did like a big sigh.
Oh, I see. Okay, you go first.
3 things go through my head at the same time. Can't say one of them. With bundles are great in a way when it comes to getting everything you need, but a lot of times I've found on myself personally is I don't need all of that stuff. Like I'm going to pick on one of the more famous, infamous, however you want to look at it, themes that a lot of like businesses who don't want to hire developers and just kind of want all the bells and whistles. The Avada theme, where it comes with the number of plugins already built in and stuff like that. 9 times out of 10, you don't need all of those items, and so they're just adding bullet onto your site. Or forgive me for anyone who thinks I may have sinned of Jetpack. A lot of newer users like to use that plugin, but only use like a quarter of the features on it. And I'm not saying that they're bad or good, but I'm more of, let me just get the features that I need. And Give kind of went back and forth with this as well on, do we want to just buy the items per piece or bundle everything together? And WooCommerce did as well. I'm more of a component of let me get the things I need instead of bundle all the things together.
Thank you. Jess?
I think I'm going to pass on this one.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. I think my gut feeling, though, is that Jonathan has probably got the right idea here. I've got a feeling that in the future, it's quite likely that a lot of the price points that we see now, $49, $99, those kind of things, I think they will start to creep up as people realize that there is actually money in the ecosystem. And maybe people are prepared to pay a decent amount of money for something which does one thing and does it really well, as opposed to what you were just saying, Michelle. You get one thing which does a ton of things but doesn't do potentially any of them really well. Jonathan Wold can be found at jonathanwold.com. Is a big proponent of this kind of thing. But the article goes into not just what the problem is, but he also sort of offers a few solutions. And he's not just coming at it from the buyer's point of view, he comes at it from the seller's point of view as well. So he's trying to create knowledge as to how, if you are a plugin developer, you can get, a higher valuation for your bits and pieces. And yeah, there we go. All right. Right, we'll make this one the last one. This is Maciek once more. You've given us this piece. I confess, Maciek, I threw this in the show notes right at the last moment, so I don't even know anything about it other than Kinsta have got a piece called "A New Era of Developer-Centric Hosting is Coming." What is this about?
In short, Kinsta at the moment is WordPress is a WordPress hosting company. That's it. They are great at hosting WordPresses, and that's it. And they decided to do something more. So they are working on a way to host other applications, written not only in PHP. They can be written in Node, Python, whatever. I already have the guest access, the beta version access, so I had a chance to play around with it. It's still a bit rough around the edges, but I think if Kinsta will be able to have the same level of user help, of documentation and everything, because let's be honest, at some point all the managed hostings are kind of similar. There are things, there are those small things that set them apart. And if Kinsta will be able to do it, this can be something really enormous for them.
I'm kind of curious about this, actually. Okay, so first of all, thank you for explaining. I didn't realize that's what this was about. But I wonder, my guess is that they're successful, but they wish to be more successful. And obviously, there's only so much of the WordPress market that you can hoover up because of all the competition in there. But if you can position yourself to go outside of the WordPress market, then obviously there's a greater pie to have a slice of. But it does make me wonder. I associate Kinsta with WordPress, and that's all. It's just Kinsta is a WordPress thing in the same way that I do for Pressable and let's say WP Engine and all of those different companies. I wonder if this will dilute the punch of the marketing, if you know what I mean. In other words,
No way.
No, tell me more,
No way.
Jess.
This is infrastructure as a service. It's brilliant. It's basically the backwards way of going about it than Liquid Web and Nexus did. Because remember, they offer way more than just WordPress.
Right.
And so there were lots of other ways to do these sorts of things, whereas Kinsta is using, Google's platform to allow you to do a whole lot more. And remember, they've got a lot of freedom because they don't actually own any servers. They don't have to deal with any of that. They're just the middleman. So they can extend in all kinds of ways where the management is concerned. But what Kinsta does very, very well is they're gorgeous and they're easy to use. They're just so pretty. I swear to God, I want to steal their whole design team. But they do a really good job of taking something that would be pretty difficult if you were to just buy your own server and make your own weird mishmash, which, by the way, is where a lot of these headless applications are going. They're doing all kinds of complicated things. They're turning sites into like 6 different sites. And I think it's very smart.
So you see this as like a bright horizon for them, and you don't think there'll be a confusion like Kinsta isn't just WordPress; it's a bit of everything else. No, you think they'll be able to separate all out.
I think this is for people who use WordPress that also need to do other things.
And Maciek, you thought it was good, but still beta.
Yes, it's still beta, but I would say is very, very solid. So the tech part is great. It's really great. There are some things still missing, like there is no CLI, which would be great to use together with some CI/CDs and things like this. But still, it's working. It's still, so the hardest part, it's okay. There are
I was
some
curious.
small things. Of course, it's a bit more complicated to use than to use default. It was for them. It was here you have everything, and I mean, install WordPress because
Yeah.
do.
Maciek, you're. I guess it's fairly timely, Maciek. You're sort of breaking up now.
So.
Is anybody else getting Maciek breaking up? I am.
He's breaking up on me too.
Yeah, sorry, Maciek. But it's perfect timing because we've basically come to the end anyway. The show is like we're out of time essentially. So perfect time for you to break up. You've hung on in there. Just one quick thought. It's a good job that Kinster has that name because I guess if you're called WP Engine, or anything else, that's a big pivot, isn't it? Changing for WP Engine, this would have to be presumably some kind of rebranded thing. So anyway, good luck to them, and thank you, Maciek, for surfacing that. I do apologise. We've overrun a little bit. I hope I haven't kept any of that. Yes, quite right, Jess. She knows what's coming. Michelle has no idea what I'm about to do to her. Michelle, at the end of every show, we just put both hands up and just wave them for a few seconds so that I can use it on the... Oh, look, she's totally into it. Maciek, come on, Maciek. He's breaking up. Oh, we're going to have a handless Maciek. Oh, no, that's the first time. Oh, quick. There you go. Thank you very much. We have overrun. I do apologize. Big thanks to Jess. Thanks for talking to us today once more. And Maciek's still going for it. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll be coming back on.
I really did.
Oh, thank you. And Maciek, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you can hear me. Let's hope your connection hasn't completely died. And we will be back this time next week with some other fabulous guests talking more about WordPress. Thanks, guys. Take it easy.